Okay.
This is the meeting of the Conservation Commission Inland Wetland Agency, Tuesday, February 23rd at 6 p.m. by video conference and teleconference. Calling to order and moving to roll call.
John Mailing,
Here.
Ed Halowinko,
Here.
Steve Clockey,
Here.
Matt Pence,
Here.
John Levin,
Here.
Jen Valiant,
Here.
Farah Marin,
Here.
and Cheryl Brown.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, before we start receipt and discussion, I'd like to welcome the new commissioners. Maybe we can talk a little bit about why you chose this most terrific and rewarding of commissions to strike for when we get round to commissioners' comments. But for the moment, let's press on to S20-563, 57 Noah's Lane Extension. And I'm bound to pronounce this wrong, but I'm going to say Siwad. Anyway, that's what I'm going to say. Installation of on-site septic system, patio, shed, retaining wall, fence, and paths in and adjacent to.
Correct. And so the, let's see, I think the applicant is here tonight. As it states in the agenda, it is up for, it's just the receipt tonight for the first discussion regarding the scope of the activities and figuring out what's being proposed. And it is a single family residence, and it pretty much involves improving the rear yard of the residence, including patios and directly adjacent to the house, the lawn beyond the proposed patio, and the wetland beyond the proposed lawn. So that's kind of the layout. I know the applicant's representative is here tonight.
Yes.
And the homeowners too. I'll work on giving the homeowners their correct name so that they and I'll add them for the next meeting so that you have your own invite. I can share my screen if you want, or if you have the plans and are able to digitally share them, you can do that as well. It's up to you.
Sure. I don't mind sharing the screen, Alexis, if that makes it easier for you.
Okay.
Just let me quickly interject. Please identify yourself and state your organization so that we've got that for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Abigail Adams, registered landscape architect, owner of A2 Land Consulting out of New Fairfield, Connecticut. I am here tonight representing the homeowners who are on the meeting here. So they are more than welcome to introduce themselves and interject with any comments or answer any questions that you may have that I am not able to answer. I'm just going to share my screen quickly, and I'm going to start with just the existing conditions. The property is located at 57 Noah's Lane in the residence AA district zone. The property is approximately 29,000 square feet, and it's surrounded by other single family residential homes. The property slopes generally west to east, with the single family home in the upper third of the property here. It's served by municipal water and an existing septic system in the rear yard here. Currently, there's this curvy stone retaining wall that retains this lawn area here and then steps down to a lower, somewhat vegetated area in here to the wetlands. This wetlands line here, which was delineated by Jim McManus, and his report is in the application submission. The site then slopes to a small brook that runs along the back of the property, then slopes back up again and is bounded on the northeast side by an existing stone wall here. The existing wetlands have typical maple, ash, some oak trees in there, along with invasives such as garlic mustard, multiflora rose, some barberry, some of the usual suspects. There's also a derelict playground, I think that was left over from years and years back, but that's there and we want to clean that up. I'm going to stop share for a second and then pull up the design plans. Did that pop up for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. So I just want to quickly start with the demolition plan. There's an existing walkway here, a small retaining wall, a patio, and an existing deck. And along with that existing retaining wall here, we're looking to remove these items in order to make way for the new improvements that we will be proposing. Go to the next sheet here. Here's the site plan of the improvements. What we're looking to do is construct a new walkway around the side of the house to a new patio and outdoor kitchen area behind the garage with a couple of steps down from the house and the garage itself. And then on this level, coming out from the kitchen, one step down, actually, excuse me, two steps down, one step to a landing, and then another step down to a raised masonry patio that would have a seat wall surrounding it. And then a couple of steps down to a lower patio that would have a fire pit. And this patio would be on level with the lawn. And as you can see, we're looking to expand the lawn. And in order to do so, we would like to construct, instead of a hard masonry wall, which might have large footings, we'd like to do some minor excavation in this area and install a large boulder wall, much more natural, can be planted in the pockets and have that create the physical designation between the wetland. Here's that wetlands line here, and the usable area of the property. In the northern corner, we would be proposing a shed, maybe 12 by 16. That would probably be the maximum size. It wouldn't be any bigger than that, set on a gravel pad as opposed to concrete. And then we would here have a mulch area to put a play structure so that it's very visible. You can see the orientation of the house. It's not quite lined up with Noah's Lane or the back of the property. It's sort of at an angle. So we'd like to get that play structure over in this corner so there's great visibility from both the living room and the kitchen, as the homeowners have a young family and they would like to make these improvements to have a nice open lawn area where everybody can gather and play and the kids can play. On top of the wall, we'd be proposing a railing, probably a 42-inch to maybe an aluminum style railing, again, creating a somewhat hard designation between the developed area, the active use area, and then the more passive area of the wetland. We would like to install some stepping stones, a stepping stone path through the wetland area so that the homeowners can enjoy that, their kids can enjoy it, both visually and actively, just being able to stroll through there. They have a nice brook through there and they'd really like to be able to have that as really a usable part of their property. In not an active, usable way, but just be able to walk through there with minimal disturbance. One other item we are proposing is a 7-foot high board fence that would surround the perimeter of the property. This is both a safety measure as well as a screening measure and privacy from the neighbors. It's very, there is some forsythia here, but in the winter it doesn't do too much screening, and the backyards are very open from all three sides. So we'd really like to try and get a little bit of privacy from both fence and some planting. This is just the grading plan that's included. You can zoom in a little bit. I should have come to this before, but you can see the tight contours here. That's where the existing retaining wall is. So that gives you a better idea of the area that we're looking to just expand the lawn just a little bit, again, with the boulder wall here, just to have a really nice usable space for the family. And then wanted to move on to the wetland enhancement. So as part of this development, we'd really like to significantly enhance the wetlands as part of this project. In doing so, we'd be looking to remove some of the invasives and then do a planted buffer between the boulder slope and the wetland edge. And then between the stepping stone path and the brook itself, we'd like to heavily plant that with natives. We're looking at northern bayberry, blueberry bushes, sedges, blue flag iris, cinnamon fern, shadblow, eastern redbud. So we're really trying to do a very diverse mix of plant material that's going to create an enhanced habitat and food source for wildlife, as well as create four-season interest for the homeowners, as well as try to keep any of those invasives from coming back in. We'd really like to get those out and just really enhance this piece of property, and that portion of the property is part of it. One thing I did forget to mention as part of the development, we are looking to install a new septic system. Let me go back to the grading plan. The existing septic system and tanks are in this general area, and that does not work with any sort of concept that we were coming up with to try and get a patio that wasn't just sitting right behind their garage. We really wanted to be utilizing the back of the house and the kitchen, and exiting there and having a view of the whole property. So we are proposing a new septic system, which has been designed by Palladino and Sons, and I believe they've submitted to the health department for approval for that system. I think that I picked up all of the key points of the proposed application, and I don't know if Rotimi and Angela, if you have anything else that you wanted to add, or if you wanted to open it up for questions. Would you like me to keep sharing just in case there's questions and we can go back to the plan? I guess that's
no, that's okay. I think I have I can share if we need to.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioners, questions?
I have a question. I'd like to know if you can describe the fence again. You said a fence gets constructed around the entire perimeter of the property. I'm confused.
Yes, so I shouldn't have said the entire perimeter of the property. We'd be coming off the two front corners of the house, and then it would be the side yards and then around the back of the property in order to enclose the property.
Would the fencing cross the brook?
Yes, so I'm proposing to raise the bottom elevation of that fence by about a foot or so in order to allow the flow.
And just describe the fence again. What kind of fence is it?
A board fence, 7 foot high board.
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 So like a stockade fence?
Stockade, yep.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So
John, on I think it's sheet 3 or 2 of
Yes.
4, there's a detail of the fence. Can you see that?
Yeah, yes. And to the left is the mountings that would be installed in the wetlands for the fence. Is that correct? On the left-hand side?
Yeah, no. That's not for the fence. That is for the seat wall for the patio.
Right.
The fence post would just be dug deep. There'd be no cement, hand dug. And they would just be set in probably 3.5 feet down into the ground.
In concrete?
No.
Okay.
And the fence is shown with the line dot markings around the perimeter.
Thank you.
Abigail, you, in your presentation, you mentioned a proposed application. This is an actual application, is it not?
Yeah, so it's just misuse of it. Our proposed development as part of this application.
Okay, got it. I for one would be interested in seeing the condition of the wetlands now, so that it would be easier to see what the effect of the changes and enhancements and plantings would be. That might be accomplished by simple photography, I don't know, but I'm uncomfortable with enhancing something that I don't really know what condition it's in anyway, especially if there's a running creek. I'd be interested to know, does the level of that wetlands or the creek rise regularly, or is it, I'd like to know more about it. I think I'd like to have a clearer understanding of what's there. I'm less concerned with the, positioning of the septic tank and that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's tough with the snow cover currently. That's
Right.
it's a little hard to see at the moment. I can share some aerial photos real quickly if you like.
I have copies of or at least one copy of of what was called Figure 1.
Right.
Can you describe that wetlands, Alexis? I mean, have you seen it before it got snow covered? And
I have not seen it since the application was submitted. I went out there, it was a long time ago, either in 2013 or 2015. I think when the current owners were considering the purchase, if I remember right. So I unfortunately don't have a good feel for the current condition of the wetland. It's not much higher in elevation than the watercourse. And I would point you back to, let me just remember Jim McManus's delineation report. I don't know if he describes.
I'm just going to jump in quick because I just pulled it up as well. Alexis does say typical vegetation observed within the regulated area includes red maple, Norway maple, some spice bush, honeysuckle, beggar ticks, which I'm not familiar with that one actually. Some bushy aster, clearweed, garlic mustard, poison ivy. I forgot to mention the poison ivy. I think there's lots of poison ivy in there.
Just one comment. We do have pictures if it will be helpful for this group to review. If that's helpful, we do have pictures.
I think that would be very helpful.
Okay.
That's thank you for offering.
Okay. We'll send them over. Oh, we'll send to Alexis. Abigail.
Great. Yes, and I'll definitely pass them along right away.
Excellent.
How many large trees are contemplated being removed from the review area?
One dead ash tree had been removed because it was a safety issue. And we are not proposing
Sorry,
any.
I'm sorry,
we're
you're
losing
breaking
you.
up. An ash tree was removed already because it was a, what?
It was dead and it was a safety issue. So we are not proposing any other tree removal as part of this.
Okay. Can you characterize the fauna that inhabit the watercourse area or traverse it?
My guess is typical deer and chipmunks, squirrels, birds, butterflies. I don't know. I
I'm
can't.
sorry, Abigail, I'm having a really hard time hearing you.
No. I'm sorry if I have a bad connection.
You just have like some reverb when you lean back a little bit. So maybe
Is it? I need to be closer.
try. Maybe.
Aha. You'll have an up close of my face. It's typical New England deer, squirrels, chipmunks, birds, butterflies. I don't know. I'm guessing that there may be fox. I don't know if Angela and Rotimi can testify to any other animals that they've seen move through the site.
I saw a fox once.
Fox
I
once.
usually capture pictures and send them to my parents. What else?
I
A
think all
lot
of
of deer.
a lot of what we just mentioned. I think there we saw a bear once.
Yeah. We had a bear last year.
So Commissioner Levin, I guess a lot of times the if you're really looking for kind of the characterization of the wetland, that's generally done by either an ecologist or a professional wetland scientist. So we can talk more about that. You know, I don't know what kind of level of kind of detail you're looking for, kind of just a general or something more.
I think, you know, my inquiry really is along the same lines as the other commissioners. I would simply like to have an understanding of what's there now.
Right.
Yeah, I think with an understanding of what's there now, I mean, the planting plan is quite nice. I mean, if currently that site is, you know, a lot of invasive plants, all of the things that they're planting, it's a temporary disturbance and could really enhance that area and help it out. You know, it may stabilize a bank and things like that. It would be very interesting to see some photos.
I would to introduce a slightly different element of this. In addition to, as Commissioner Levin requested, a better way of evaluating the changes against what actually exists there now, I'm concerned at the plan for the walking path, the stones that would run through the wetlands for the purpose, as Ms. Adams pointed out, of providing a means of enjoying the appearance of the new plantings within the wetlands. It's very difficult for me to understand how such a pathway or a stone pathway would be anything other than a significant intrusion into the wetlands. And I wonder if the applicants could maybe scratch their heads a little and see if there's an alternative way of observing and enjoying the constitution of the wetlands after they've been enhanced, as opposed to a stone pathway that goes within them. I don't have very much experience. I have no experience in building these kinds of walkways, but I imagine that it's that they by themselves take up a fair amount of space if they are to be made stable, and that they might be difficult to walk along, which is not within our purview, but nevertheless it would suggest that they would need to be very heavily mounted. So I guess I would express that as a concern, and I would ask that if there's any possible alternative, we'd be made aware.
Yeah, we will think about that and look into that.
Yeah, and I had spoken to Ms. Adams, just kind of giving her heads up regarding some of your very recent decisions regarding other paths and more active recreational use within a wetland.
Going along with the stone path, I would question, do we really need a shed back there that close to the wetlands?
Right now, we have a lot of items in our garage that present safety issues when we're walking out our two kids through. Hanging
Yard tools and
yard
snow
tools,
blower
snow
and
blowers,
leaf
etc.
blowers and stuff.
It'll be very helpful to have that there outside of that path, outside of the garage. So that's why we're proposing it to be in that area.
Right. One of the reasons that we, the commission often looks more critically at sheds is that they tend to hold the items that we don't like to have in our homes, whether it's pesticides or the lawnmower and the gas can and the things that we generally want to separate from ourselves, but aren't always the best fit for being proximal to the wetland. Understood.
Alexis, would you mind just popping up the grading plan again for a second?
Yes.
Look at that.
Working on that.
Great. That's probably perfect. So just a couple of things. You can see the dashed setback line. It's running almost right next to the upper, by the shed, the top of the shed. Yeah, the dashed line.
Contour line?
Not the contour lines. There's a dashed setback line.
Oh, the zoning setback line?
Right. So the shed needs to be outside of the setback line. And then if we pull it up further away from the wetlands, we can't have it there either because we have our septic system. And on the other side of the property, the lawn is the play structure, and it would just be switching from north to south. It would still be in the same proximity to the wetlands, but that is why I understand the concern about it, but that is why we chose that location for the shed.
Distance between the proposed large boulder wall and the wetlands.
Could you speak up a little bit again, Matt?
Yeah, what is the distance between the proposed large boulder wall and the wetland line?
The minimum distance is 5 feet from the wetland edge to the toe of the boulder wall, and then it would move back. So the excavation would be happening from the upland area. We do some excavation, just a little bit, because we'd set the boulders and then we'd be backfilling against it. So there's actually minimal excavation work that would need to happen either. We'd set very large boulders to hold that slope back. So we don't need to have a large footing or any concrete poured in that area. The truck would come, it would set the boulders down and move along in a line and then back away from it and backfill. So there would be no disturbance within that wetland.
So right now your silt fence line, the limit of disturbance is pretty much runs parallel to the wetland line, right? So this is the wetland line, and then what's labeled GSF is your silt fence line?
Correct. Which could be shifted away from the wetlands if need be.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? How much fill is going to be brought in?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, good question. We've calculated approximately 125 cubic yards.
That includes the fill related to the septic system as well?
Correct. That's everything related to that expansion and for the septic system.
Is this a gate?
Yes,
That's-
that would be the rail, again, the railing style fence would come across there
Mhm.
into the boulder slope down at the lower level so that there could be maintenance. I mean, there are some ashes in that wetlands area, but if there ever needed to be any kind of maintenance, we would want to have a gate back there. I don't anticipate it being used very often, but again, the railing and that gate, it's a safety issue. So we have the railing across the top of the boulder slope. It would dead end into the shed, and then it would pick up again just where you had shown it at the base of that boulder slope and come across and meet up with the 7-foot board fence.
The top portion of this schematic is north, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. The length of the fence that is anticipated presumably to run across the wetlands from the midpoint to the edge of the property would be how long roughly? The reason I'm asking is I'm trying to get a sense as to how much of the fence is going to pass through the wetlands and the watercourse.
So this distance, the wetland to the rear of the
Yeah.
property line?
What would that be?
That's,
Because I honestly think that supporting any length of fence with just a 4x4 that's driven into the wetlands, the muck or whatever is there, will not do a very good job of supporting that fence, and will require indeed a lot of going back and forth to try to figure out how to shore it up.
But typically, I know when Walpole installs those fences, they do not use cement. I mean, we may be installing some gravel in the hole, but I don't anticipate cement. And if I don't anticipate that. That length, to answer the question, is 61 feet on that side.
51 feet.
61.
60, yeah, I have it at 64.
64 feet. And how many uprights would you propose to support that 64 feet? Would there be one every 8 feet or every 6 or
Yeah.
10?
We'd probably do every 6 with the height.
So you do every 6 feet for 60 feet. So it'd be 10 uprights running through the wetlands area.
On,
As you-
on that,
as-
property, on that northern part,
That
right?
side.
Sorry?
On that one side, and then we have the southern side as well.
Right.
Right. Which is about 75 feet.
That's a lot of disruption. And on the other side, on what would be the east side of this, it's obscured by the thumbnails of our faces that are on the right-hand side.
Get rid of you again.
That's 100
just saying.
linear. That's 100 linear feet because that's the back.
Okay, but I can't really tell whether or not the area, the length of fence that's connecting the northern piece with the southern piece, does that run through the wetlands?
Yes. Right, so this is, the wetland line is here. So all of this area is wetland. This is the water course where my cursor is now. And the northern and southern portions would cross the wetland and the water course.
And then run
And then-
down the east side of the water course within the wetlands for a distance of approximately 100 feet.
Correct, at the top of the slope there.
And the construction of the fence would be the same throughout.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so I'm just curious about this fence going in, and in relation to wildlife. Will wildlife be able to access that water, or will they be fenced out completely?
So again, the intention is to raise the bottom elevation of the fence over the water course section so that typical animals, fox, raccoons, things like that would still find their way under that you could still have the migration across the property. It would keep deer out.
Okay.
Well, deer can jump 8 feet, but I don't know if they'd necessarily jump this 7-foot fence.
And is there, are there houses beyond the waterways? Is that why the homeowners want the fence on the back? Is there a way they can just do the northern side and the southern side and stop before the wetlands so they're not disturbing that?
Yeah, maybe I can jump in. The fence is actually, for us, it's really a matter of privacy and security. There's that stone wall across the back. It's literally our neighbors. And even when we're in our living rooms, like we sometimes want to close the shades because it's like direct access. Well, it's the side of their house. It's like directly into our house. And we've actually had a couple of occasions with like people on our property. Like one person was taking photos of our house. They'd come over from the neighbor's side and we don't know why or what that was about. Another person coming through. So it's just, that's part of the real reason why we've been looking at the fence options with Abigail, is to try to get a sense, because we do have 2 little girls.
Okay.
So if we're wrapping it up, if this is just a receipt and discussion, I think probably Abigail and the homeowners are starting to get the drift that, well, I'll just say, like, our purpose here is to make sure that the natural and indigenous character of the wetland is not disturbed. So if you were interested in maybe reconsidering a few things, especially the ones that have been mentioned in the past few minutes, before we see this again in a couple of weeks and have a more in-depth discussion on it, you may want to consider that. And I'm assuming Alexis told you some of this, but the wetland acts as a buffer between, you know, land and water, and the water connects everybody. And so unfortunately, we've got to find this balance between, you know, your rights as a property owner and what you have the right to do on your property, and how that may affect, you know, the rest of us, basically. So
Absolutely.
just a couple things to keep in mind as you're considering whether you want to make adjustments to the proposal.
Thank you.
Any other
All right,
commissioners?
well, it will stay on the agenda until there's a decision made, and this commission won't rush to a decision that is that you don't want. So they definitely will work towards finding a positive decision. And you're more than welcome to set up a meeting with me to talk more about kind of what, go through my notes, and I can try to help you interpret what I think the commissioners were saying when they brought up various issues, and talk about ways to meet in the middle, maybe.
That would be great, Alexis. Thank you. And can you please advise when the next meeting is?
Yes, they're held every 2 weeks. So it's the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. That's not, oh, well, March would be the same. So it would be the 9th of March.
Would we be able, Alexis, to post the photographs that we receive in the commission's
Yes.
listing of documents? Because that would
Yes.
that would allow us. I mean, we could do that right away. We don't have to wait 2 weeks to look at those pictures.
Yeah, that was.
As soon as we get them, we can, you know.
Right. If the anytime the applicant submits any revised information, I will post that to the pending applications on the city's website and alert
Right.
you that I've posted them. Absolutely.
Right.
And even though there is snow on the ground, it is supposed to be warm this week. And as always, I encourage each of you commissioners to go out and have a look. I'll also go out once the snow starts going down, and I can look around. I'll go out and take some photos myself. But as always, I encourage you to go out and have a look. And you know, February is not the best season or month to evaluate the robustness of a wetland. But you can still get a pretty good idea of kind of the lay of the land. So,
and how would we coordinate that with you, Alexis? Like, do we coordinate with you or homeowner?
So I can try to go out there with you. You can also go out yourself. Certainly for the 2 new commissioners, I can set up a time to go out there with you to just kind of go over basic looking at a map and looking at a site. But generally, you can knock on the door of any pending application, let them know who you are, and then do an inspection of the wetland area. When you do an inspection, you just don't want to have any conversation with them. You don't want to have an ex parte, you know, any discussion. You're just there to kind of look, observe, and then get out of there. And that's a heads up for the homeowners too, that you might see some commissioners come by, but unfortunately, out of fairness, they won't be able to actually talk with you.
But we're nice. Just so you know. Just so you know.
Very nice.
Okay. Does anyone else have a comment to make? We could let these folks go.
So it just sounds like the two sort of concerns, questions that the commission might have are related to the fence and the path. Were there any concerns related to other things that we should be looking at? We just don't want to drag out the permitting process if we don't need to, for everybody's sake.
I think the walkways also was a concern for one of the commissioners to think about the material that you're using and the heaviness of the rocks themselves.
Through the wetlands.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. Thank you.
I'm concerned about expanding the yard right up to the wetland line. I think that's not necessarily in line with how we usually would want to see this approached.
Commissioner Holloway, did you?
Yeah, getting back to the shed issue, you know, it's either lose the shed or make it really smaller and move it closer to the house.
Yeah, fence over the waterway is, I think, kind of a no-go for me personally. If we're putting a finer, we're really sharpening our pencils here.
Well, I think it's important, you know, to get as much detail pulled together for the applicant as we can, so that they can make decisions and know that they're responsive, you know, and not something that's going to generate some new objection down the road. So that's the objective. I mean, we like to see if we can find a way to get some of these things done, or as much of these projects done as possible. That's our objective. And And so we'll send it back to you, to the applicants and to Abigail, and we'll get some pictures in the next few days, hopefully. And I mean, they can get sent electronically, can they not, Alexis?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we can take them just however, scanned or whatever. And then we'll have this back on the docket in 2 weeks.
Wonderful. And I'll follow up with Alexis tomorrow. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
bet.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving to S21-564 Bonnybrook Road, Norwalk Public Works, rehab of an existing bridge and wing walls at the bridge in and adjacent to the Holy Ghost Father's Brook. We don't have any paperwork on this, do we, Alexis?
Just digital paperwork, which I can, but no, I did not do a staff report. Let's see, would you like me to share my screen, or would you guys like to?
Hey, Alexis, we have a presentation prepared, so I can share the screen.
All right, go for it. So, and while he sets that up, I'll just talk a little bit. The work is adjacent to the water course, which is Holy Ghost Father's Brook, and in the water course itself, as you can see, well, they'll go through the photos. I think that the photos speak very well of the work that needs to be done for rehabbing the bridge and the structures underneath the bridge. But
please make sure whoever's presenting, please let us have the names. I know Paul, but if you could just
right, my name is Dennis Kinnett. I'm the project manager for this project on behalf of presenting on behalf of Freeman Companies, and we have also in the room Luis Bukele, our staff engineer that is also involved with this project. So let me just start by saying that we're very happy to know that the commission is composed of very nice people, and that we are hoping that waterboarding is not necessary during this presentation.
That's not the kind of wetlands we get involved with.
So anyways,
sorry, can I just interrupt for a sec? So this is Vanessa Valadares. I'm the principal engineer for City of Norwalk. I just want to give a little background of why the reason for this project to the commissioner. The City of Norwalk, we have a few bridges that is below 20 feet span. And in the past couple of years, and we hired about 2 years ago, Freeman to do the inspection on all of them. Most of them are sometimes just small culverts or like really like small old bridges. And after this whole inspection, that we came up with a list of some of them that need some immediate repair. So we probably may need to come to you with few other bridges in a near future, since based on this inspection, Freeman was able to identify some work that will need to be done to rehabilitate them. So now we're bringing to you Stony Brook. So I just want to give you this feedback, the reason why we have to do this kind of work.
And this is Paul Sotnick, I'm senior engineer with Public Works. When Freeman had done this and we had put out an RFP to have the bridges inspected, because many years ago, the state did inspections on all of the bridges in the city, and this is across the state. And then what they did is about 7 or 8 years ago, they stopped inspecting the less than 20-foot spans and put that burden onto the city to do. So based on that, we hired Freeman to put together the inspections, do the inspections, and then based on their results, we put together a 5-year plan, and that brings us to where we are now.
How many bridges are have been identified as having an issue that are in the 5-year?
There's 26 bridges total. And right now, to begin with, there's the worst one is the one we're working with tonight is Bonnie Brook Road. And we're taking them from the worst first. But they had some that had critical things and then others that were just minor repairs. So Dennis, I think it was maybe 10, 15, 20 that had issues that needed repairs, but they weren't as bad as the one that we're looking at here. And this one was rated as poor. So that's why we started with this one.
These are bridges in Norwalk, Paul?
Yes, every one of these is in Norwalk. And you have big bridges that the state still inspects in Norwalk, like Perry Avenue, the Broad Street, those kind of larger spans. And then you have the less than 20s, like Vanessa said, that consist of culverts, pipes, and that's what these are. They're the less than 20-foot spans. They're not the big bridges.
How many small bridges must be repaired under the existing 5-year plan?
Right now, there's 26 total in the package, and about 20 of them had work that needed to be done in some way, shape, or form, whether it's just some guide rail, whether it's just some paving of the slopes around the edges of the bridge, whether it's minor things up to major things like what Dennis is going to talk about now. So it varies, but there was quite a few of them, but they were small, minor things. We're not talking about major structural failures, that kind of thing. We're trying to prevent that.
Right, and that's why I want to bring that up to you, because this particular set of bridges are the small ones. They are all below 20 feet span. Also, we are limited on the budget that we have to do all these projects. So it's not that we're going to be able to do all of them in 1 year. But the plan is that hopefully in the next few years, you're going to be seeing some of these requests coming through in front of you if we need to do any work related to the wetlands.
And the way Freeman put it together, we put a 5-year plan together, inspect, basically do some design work for the ones that needed to be repaired in like 2 to 5 years. And then there was others that could have the work wait from like 5 to 7 years, that kind of thing. So the ones that are a little later, those get pushed off, but it's the critical ones first, then the construction of those, then you go to the design of the ones that can wait a little longer, then the construction of those, and then in year 6, start the inspections all over again.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll jump in. Thank you, Paul and Vanessa, for the project introduction there. So as Paul and Vanessa indicated, subsequent to our inspection of the 26 bridges that are owned by the city, we have prioritized the repair and rehabilitation of these based on the ratings of the deteriorations that we have observed. So among those, the worst one is the Bonnie Brook Road over the Holy Ghost Father's Brook. As you can see in this picture, this bridge consists of 4 reinforced concrete pipes that have collapsed. The southern end, which is basically the discharge end of the culvert, has collapsed. But let me just go through the presentation, and then I could provide more information on that. So I've already indicated, my name is Dennis Kinnett. I'm the project manager for Freeman Companies for this project. And in the room is Luis Bukele, our staff engineer involved with this project. Next slide. So anyways, the proposed, I would indicate, I already discussed the, describe the purpose of the rehabilitation, which is basically to repair the collapsed section of the culvert. There's also a scour hole in the discharge area that basically caused the collapse of the structure. and the eroded approach embankment of the channel. So those are the main things that we're trying to address in this project. Next slide. So basically, this is a culvert that conveys the Holy Ghost Father's Brook. It's about half a mile from, I forgot what street that is.
Richards Avenue.
Mile about east, west of, forgot what street. But anyways, it consists of 4 reinforced concrete pipes. That's about, I believe, about 30 feet long, I think. So next slide. So the existing structure was built sometime in the 1960s, and it's essentially a buried structure with bituminous concrete pavement and grouted stone masonry head walls. The existing condition as it is right now, the end or discharge section of the pipe has collapsed, basically undermined by the scour hole that was developed in the discharge area. And the scour hole was deep enough that it essentially undermined the stone masonry end block, and which caused basically the collapse of the structure. The adjacent embankment has also eroded, which basically led to the undermining of the chain link fence. Next slide. So as you can see, this is the picture of the approach roadway. It's a bituminous concrete pavement with snow shelves on both sides. Next slide. What you see here right now is essentially the north end of the culvert. This is the inlet or the upstream end of the culvert. Consists of grouted stone masonry end blocks. And there's also a retaining wall that is, I believe, part of an adjacent private property.
Do you consider this to be in good shape, the upper side? The slide, that one, do you consider that to be in good condition?
There are some deficiencies that we've observed there. Basically, again, loss of fill between the pipes, which we propose on backfilling with a flowable fill.
Okay.
Next slide. And this section actually is the downstream section. As you can see, the 4 end sections of the reinforced concrete pipes have collapsed into the channel itself. As you can see, the stone masonry end block also collapsed into the culvert because it was undermined by the scour hole. To the side of that, as you can see, the embankment was also eroded, which led to the undermining of the chain link fence. What you see here now is the upstream channel, which is essentially in pretty stable condition. Next slide. This is the downstream section. As you can see, the chain link fence is now hanging in the air because of the collapsed stone masonry end block is no longer there. As you can also see, previous slide. So you can also see the previous slide. As you can also see to the left there of the picture, you could see the eroded approach embankment, and that basically exposed roots and some trees collapsing into the channel. The same condition is to the right of that picture that you are looking at. Next slide. This area right here is essentially the snow shelf, which will be regraded once we have repaired this area. Next slide. Again, this is a picture to your to the left. There is the east embankment. As you can see there, the channel embankment is now pretty steep, and this one here is probably eroded by as much as maybe at least 5 feet. So we're proposing on regrading this area as well. To the right of that picture is another image of the collapsed end sections of the culvert.
When you say regrading, are you talking about bringing in fill to replace that which has been eroded?
Yes, and we will show that in our preliminary design plans. You'll get a better image of that when we show that in the next slides.
Thank you.
Next slide. Again, this shows different angles of the deterioration. To the left of that picture there is a storm drainage pipe that we plan on relocating because that's where it'll be in conflict with our proposed wing wall. So we'll be relocating that as well. As you can see here, the embankment has been eroded, and it basically undermined and exposed the foundation of the chain link fence. We will be replacing the chain link fence as well. Next slide. So this is our proposed plan, which basically shows the replacement of the end sections of the reinforced concrete pipes. And we are also proposing on reconstructing the end block with a reinforced gravity type concrete end block with wing walls, the wing walls being laid out as such, and the embankment being graded on both sides. And we will, again, redefine the channel there. As you can see to your right there, which is basically to the east of the discharge area, that's where we plan on regrading that embankment to a 2-to-1 slope. We plan on armoring that area as well. One, basically to protect the wing walls from further erosion and undermining. We are also proposing on filling the scour hole with riprap. By the way, the head wall will be founded about 4 to 4.5 feet below the invert of the pipes. And we will be filling in the scour hole with 2 feet of standard riprap, topped with 1 foot of granular fill, and topped with 1 foot of natural stream bed material. We are also proposing on putting a sort of like a pool area there, just so it will dissipate the energy of the water during high discharge events. Next slide.
A high discharge event would be flooding?
Not necessarily flooding, but basically maybe a 10-year storm or a 50-year storm. We what's the capacity of our this one right here? Yeah. So right now the existing culvert can handle a 100-year storm without overtopping. But that would mean that we will have we will also have high velocity discharge in the discharge area, which is primarily probably what caused the scour and the erosion in that area. As it goes out, as it develops the scour hole, you now have a turbulent sort of like a vortex there, which caused the approach embankments to erode as well. So as you can see here, we are going to be building the reinforced concrete end block, founded about approximately 4 feet below the invert. Our calculated anticipated scour, by the way, is about 4 to 4.5 feet, which is basically just at the area where we are trying to locate the bottom of our foundation. So in order to protect that foundation, we are proposing on filling that scour hole with standard riprap, and then filling that and topping that with granular, 1 foot of granular fill, and then another foot of, on top of that, another foot of natural material.
I have a question for Paul Sotnick. Paul, given the, I shouldn't say given, but we frequently get applications from people who are concerned about unusually high levels of flooding in their properties over the last couple of years. Has there been a coordination with whoever it is at the city who's keeping track of those kinds of things to see whether or not this project is, you know, maybe is sufficient for that kind of increased flooding, or whether it might need to be made larger in some way, or allow more water to pass through in some way? I don't know anything about Holy Ghost Father's Brook. I don't know how it behaves, you know, in stormy sessions, but I would not like to see us go to all this much work, which seems to me so far to be very intelligently designed, without factoring in the possibility that we may have some, you know, again, unpleasant and unexpected flooding that would make this project still not sufficient for that
I
stormwater
could I could probably chime in on that one, Paul, if you want me to.
Yeah, and John, just to answer your question, we coordinate that in our department because of the flooding. The customer service requests that we would get would come to the Department of Public Works. So to answer your question, yes, we are taking any of that into consideration, and I'll let Dennis continue.
Great, thank you.
I just wanted to add to that too, that there are 2 other bridges of the same size downstream of this bridge, which is basically on Holy Ghost, I'm sorry, Bonnybrook Trail.
Yes.
Bonnybrook Trail, so which is essentially the same size as this culvert. So, and those bridges are in satisfactory condition with some minor or deficiencies that can be addressed later on. So while replacing this bridge can be considered in the future to provide a larger capacity, providing a larger capacity, hydraulic capacity for this bridge will definitely impact the other 2 bridges.
Yes.
If we replace this bridge with a larger, hydraulic capacity, then those 2 bridges will have to be replaced.
To answer your question, John, basically, if we were to increase the size of this, it would be like taking a 5-gallon bucket and then trying to put it into a straw downstream, and we'd cause flooding downstream.
I hear you. So if we're not going to do all of them, it doesn't make sense to do just one.
No, but I just want to add one thing also that is important. All the time that we design a new bridge, we usually we do for a 100-year flood event. So pretty much, and you guys know that very well, but the 100-year flood event is one of the highest flood events that we can anticipate, and all the bridges has to be built for that standard. Doesn't mean that we're going to have a flood every 100 years, but is the probability of have one flood with that amount of water. So it is already designed for a very high storm event. That the biggest problem is really like the runoff. So how much, and the time of concentration. So how much water we'll get in such a short period of time. Usually what we do, as Paul mentioned in our department, if we know about any flooding issues that we have in that neighborhood, we try to inform our consultant about also having a second look in that area to see if there is something else that needs to be done so we can improve the flooding in the area. On this case, for this particular one, we didn't have anything specific relating to flooding. The reason why we're doing the rehabilitation of this bridge was more because of the condition of it and not because of the flooding that was causing in the area.
Okay.
The 100-year storm, one of the ways to think of the 100-year storm too is it's a storm that has a 1% chance of happening in any given year.
Right. Well, we know how the odds work on that stuff. But clearly the bridge has to be repaired in regardless of the effect on flooding. It certainly won't make it any worse.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask one related question real quick? I feel like we saw something similar to this where we had to remove a bunch of sediment from one of these scour holes or whatever because it was slowing down the water flow and the sediment had a chance to fall out. Is that in the cards here as far as what was considered?
We are only removing whatever is in the channel right now. It doesn't seem like, I mean, you do have sediment, but it's mostly just natural stream bed material.
Okay.
So we're basically just removing that material, excavating it in order to be able to construct the head wall, and then as we backfill it with standard riprap.
Okay, thanks.
So one of the things that we're also proposing is that the existing roadway does not have guide rails at this time. So we're proposing on providing some guide rails because the drop off there is pretty close to the edge of the roadway. But we're maintaining the alignment and we're maintaining the profile of the roadway and the width of the roadway. Those are not changing at all. Slide. So what are we trying to show here, Luis? Oh, yeah. So the roadway plan is essentially the reconstruction of the roadway that will be impacted by the construction of the replacement of the culvert and the end block. As far as the amount to be removed, for the most part, only the southern section of the roadway will be impacted, but it doesn't make sense to do a full depth reconstruction of just half the roadway. And so we're proposing reconstructing the full width, but we're minimizing the length of the roadway to be reconstructed. Next slide. So this is our proposed construction sequence. We are going to maintain flow on 2 of the pipes, which in this case, we're maintaining the 2 western pipes and diverting flow into the western pipe while we replace the end section of the culvert there. We are also planning on doing some work upstream, basically just repointing and filling in the gaps between the pipes. And then again, under this stage, we will be reconstructing the, constructing the gravity type end block and regrading the embankment there. We will be maintaining the traffic, opening one lane of alternating one-way traffic while this reconstruction is going on. Next slide. And on stage 2, we switched the diverting water into the eastern 2 pipes while we construct the western section of the end block. And doing the same sequence there. And as you also notice there, we are relocating the storm drainage just right to the adjacent of that wing wall. Part of this work also will be replacing the chain link fence that has collapsed. Next slide. So our permanent impacts here will be essentially a total of 346 square feet, which includes the installation of the riprap and the proposed footprint of the culvert that we are going to be replacing. The temporary impacts will be about a little over 1,000 square feet, and the upland impact, which is basically beyond the inland wetland, delineated inland wetland, is about 11,000 square feet. This graphic shows the permanent and temporary impacts. Which one is the red one? The red shaded red area there is the a permanent impact, particularly because we have that area as being backfilled with standard riprap. And the blue is essentially due to the limits of construction there. But we will also be replacing whatever impacted area with natural stream bed material. I don't think we need to go through this slide. Next slide. That's it. So that's our presentation. Thank you for allowing us to present our project. We're open to questions, and if we don't have the answer, we'll try to get that to you.
Commissioners, anyone?
Yeah, I have a question. What's the purpose of the chain link fence?
The chain link fence, I believe, was mostly for pedestrian safety. It is also, I believe, the delineation between the right-of-way line. South of that, I believe, is owned by, I believe, the cemetery. So I think it's just a property delineation for that property, and also for pedestrian safety, because there's a drop off there.
Is there
for the most part, it's probably just to prevent people from trespassing, and again, for pedestrian safety.
Okay. Is there a safety requirement for it?
OSHA will always require something whenever you have a drop off of about 2 feet or greater. And so in this case, it is appropriate. And even if we don't have a, even if we don't need a chain link fence there, that chain link fence might have been installed by the property owners south of the structure.
But the guardrail can't serve a safety purpose there.
Not for pedestrians, no. It's the guardrail is more for traffic safety more than anything else. And the reason for that is because the clear zone, there's not enough clear zone between the edge of the roadway and the drop off. I believe that's if I remember, it's like 7 feet, I think. So if the drop off is less than that, then there's not enough room for the vehicle to recover if it deviates from the edge of the roadway.
Anyone else?
How many trees are being removed for this?
That's a good question. Luis, if you could go back to the slide showing the embankment and the what do you call this? No, maybe the pictures, maybe. Further up in the slide. More. Go to the pictures. Go to the images. Showed in the general.
While Dennis is getting the information, Commissioner Levin, I can answer one of your questions that you had because I grabbed the actual numbers. Out of the 26 bridges, the ones that were in the 1 to 2 year category for assessments where they needed to be rehabbed within the first 1 to 2 years, there was 14 of the 26. And overall, within some form of rehab within 2 to 5 years, there was 24 of the 26.
So this
Thank you.
This general plan right here essentially identifies some of the bridges that we are proposing on removing. For the most part, we are removing this for to improve what do you call it? To improve vision and also to prevent potential disruption of the culvert from the tree roots. So there are a bunch of, I don't know if you could see my, to the north of the culvert there, there's a snow shelf there that has a bunch of trees. And we're proposing on basically just clearing that area with trees and regrading it. And just to the east of that, we're also removing some trees there in order to be able to install the guide rail. There are also some trees in the discharge area that might need to be removed because it is in the way of the construction of the wing walls and also during the regrading of the embankment.
Okay, anybody else got a question or comment? If not, my thanks to the Department of Public Works and the city and Freeman for interesting and detailed presentation. And
Well, I had one comment, John.
yeah.
First of all, Cheryl, the page sheet 4 of the site plans has kind of the existing trees, and you can find the existing trees with an overlay of the area of work. They're not specifically called out, but you can, I'm sure you can figure out where the grading is and the intersection of where the trees are and come up with an understanding of the tree removal. And then the only other thing that I was going to add, and I've mentioned this to Paul and Vanessa, is that the Wetland Commission, and this is evident to anyone that is listening to any of the meetings or is an applicant, whether you're a homeowner or a commercial property owner or the city of Norwalk, that the commission often looks at opportunities to improve best management practices relative to kind of impacts on wetlands and watercourses. And one of the things that I noted on the plan was that there are some existing asphalt leak-offs from the road surface that discharge directly to the river. And I would suggest that the plan look into improving the road drainage discharge. At least looking to see if that's a possibility to give that runoff a little bit of opportunity for renovation before hitting the water course. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, right now, just to the west of the structure, there are 2 leak-offs, I believe. One to the
Right.
west, which is basically an asphalt leak-off right now, and then we're basically just emulating that. And we could show that to be removed, and we'll just grade that to maybe a grass or reestablish the turf there, or armor it. But I don't know if that's if the commission is open to armoring the.
Right. I think a grass swale would be ideal if
Grass
the
swale,
grades work
okay.
out in that space.
We could do that.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again.
Thank you so much. We are happy to accommodate your request.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Not before.
Moving along to S21-565, 8 Shadow Lane, Garcia, installation of in-ground pool and retaining wall adjacent to a wetland and water course. Alexis?
Okay. So some of you might recall this, this property was before you previously for some corrective action work, I think, and there was a request to install a retaining wall that you said, well, it's not going to be part of your corrective action plan. Come back someday with a plan that includes the wall. And the applicant is back to do that. So let me just share. You want me to share my screen? I think the applicant's here.
Yeah, I've got my screen as well, Alexis. So
okay, so you can go ahead and share yours if you like, whatever you prefer.
Okay, great. I've got a little highlights on mine that might be easier to read. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Kate Throckmorton, licensed landscape architect with Environmental Land Solutions. And as Alexis said, this is a property that was redeveloped. I think there was an existing old dilapidated house here that received a permit in 2018 to be, that was reconstructed. And there was a minor violation that was resolved last year. So let me orientate you. We've got Shadow Lane up at the top end of the screen. This property is located at the very end of the cul-de-sac. We have a wetland system and a brook, the Woods Pond Brook, that crosses between the road and the existing house through a culvert, and the driveway crosses that brook. There is a wetland line on the plan that I've highlighted in green, which is this line right here, which runs parallel to that water course on both sides. And we've got the 2 upland review areas, the 50-foot and this kind of pinkish color here, which runs through the existing house, and the 100-foot, which is the purple, extends to the back. So this house was essentially completed last year. The owners moved in and are looking to kind of finish the landscaping, walkways, driveway, and we're also interested in putting in a modest pool. So we provided a comprehensive plan that shows all those things, so that I think we can have a kind of a finished product at the very end of this project. The focus was a pool, a proposed pool that's located at the back of the house here. It's a 15 by 30 pool. It's actually outside the upland review area, but to construct the pool and to do the finished landscaping, most of that is within the upland review area. So to get to this pool, we have to come into the driveway. The existing driveway is located here. Come across the existing unfinished lawn area around the house to the pool. The high point of the property is at the bottom of your page, slopes down towards the brook. So we're going to be incorporating some small landscape retaining walls, 2 to 3 feet in height, to help provide some level recreation areas and just general play areas. So to begin with, when you come into the driveway, there's about a 3-foot slope or a 15% slope that runs from the brook up to the house. It's certainly easy to walk, but it would be challenging to use as a construction access. So this new retaining wall is going to kind of provide multiple purposes. One, to just level this yard with a couple of feet, provide some support at this corner right here. That will involve removing these 2 trees. They're kind of not healthy ornamental trees. One is a weeping cherry and one is a dogwood. Those will be replaced and that will be re-landscaped. But essentially that new wall will go right where those 2 trees are located. And I am suggesting in the construction sequence that this wall be constructed first to make sure that there's a safe and easier access for construction of the pool. There are several larger trees on the east side of the house. Those are all going to be retained, and I've included sedimentation, erosion controls, and tree protection for those to remain. As we come around the back of the house, there is a small kind of dilapidated barbecue that we're asking to be reconstructed essentially in the same place. The pool, again, is located here. And there will be another small retaining wall that runs the length starting at this point and running along this area of the pool so that the pool will be up above and this will be below. So the pool will be almost level with the finished floor, and this area will be a couple feet lower to provide drainage around the back of the house and a level area as well. There's one other item that we're asking for at this back corner of the house. I believe this corner was reconstructed, and there's right now only about a 3 or 4 foot walking area behind the house and some exposed ledge. So we're asking that just to be eased so that we provide like about a 6-foot path around the back of the house. I'm going to just scroll down and give you some idea when this plan is finished. We will be reinforcing the existing lawn areas with additional planting. These trees will be replaced in the front. A row of arborvitae along this area for privacy, and again, reinforcing that existing lawn edge. And then in the front, the drive is actually going to get reconfigured and reduced to make sure that it complies with the zoning regulation. And there'll again be native plantings to reinforce that edge and to prevent creep into the wetland areas. So that's kind of a brief overview. The intent for the pool is to balance the cuts and fills to reduce any earthwork coming on and off the site. Certainly it's going to be a challenging job. So if we use smaller material and don't, reduce the need to bring on and off fill, I think that will help make the whole process go a little bit easier. So I'm here for questions. That's a very quick overview. I'm happy to listen to any comments that you have. And I will stop sharing.
Yeah, I would encourage a little bit more of a robust planting adjacent to the water course.
Okay.
That's my suggestion. At this point, there's an extremely narrow buffer between the active residential area and the wetland and water course. And I'd say that we're removing the driveway on the, what would that be? I guess the south.
That provides some opportunity.
Yep. instead of lawn so proximal to the wetland.
Okay.
Are we worried about the 2-foot retaining wall limiting the ability of the creek to expand and contract as necessary?
There is a flood zone associated with this brook, but the retaining wall, I believe, is outside of that flood zone, but I'll double check.
Is this, Kate, is this the north end of, it's Woods Pond Creek, right?
Yes, Woods Pond Brook.
Woods Pond Brook goes, it's feeding into Woods Pond in the north. Is that correct? It's certainly not.
It
the
actually
lower end.
flows from the left side of the property to the right. So I'll clarify that if you'd like exactly where that ends up.
Okay.
And then,
I can look it up, Kate. I mean, Woods Pond is pretty obvious. I can look it up.
yeah, and I would say definitely do check on the, Steve makes a very good point, check on the its location within the flood zone. I think probably they need to do some sort of compensatory yeah, I believe that for the house construction, the applicant needed to do some verification for doing work within the flood zone anyway. So he may have to add the retaining wall work to that.
Okay, I was unaware of that, but I'll find out.
Okay.
And in the area with the arrows, so that's lawn now, and it's going to stay lawn. It's just going to be regraded behind the wall.
Correct.
Currently, it kind of slopes down to the wetland and Woods Pond brook. There was some planting done between the brook, kind of just along the edge of the wetland as part of the corrective action application that the applicant did last year. But yes, that area is lawn.
Okay, anyone else?
I have questions for Alexis or commissioners that were present when this home was first constructed. Were there substantial issues that came up at the time of construction, or is that?
I don't believe I was born when it was constructed. Look up when it was built. I'm pretty sure it was constructed prior to the inland wetland regulations.
Okay, that would make sense.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Kate. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Last chance if anybody's got any questions. We can move on to section 4, discussion and decision.
Okay. 1955 is the answer for construction.
You remember that year, John. Okay. S2560, 15 Adams Lane, Dean, corrective action, restoration, replanting of wetland and upland review area of a wetland and water course.
Okay, let me just share my screen once again. The applicant was not in attendance at the last meeting, but was made aware of your comments and submitted a revised site plan. And I believe that the applicant's representative and landscape architect is present, but as she noted in an email to myself, the property owner is not necessarily keen to increase the treat area, but proposed increasing the area that would be maintained as meadow, not lawn, significantly. So in this map, the hatched area is proposed to be maintained as a meadow to be mowed once per year. The upland review area limit is this line here. So pretty much 100 feet of protection for the wetland and water course that's kind of in this location here. Sorry about all the stickies popping up. So that's kind of what I had. I had asked the applicant if they were willing to do some kind of demarcation for the line between the proposed lawn and meadow. In my experience doing compliance inspections, a meadow line is easily transient without some kind of physical reminder of its location. I did do a staff report that included some possible conditions for you commissioners to consider.
Is that on the site? I don't remember seeing it.
I'm
It was in
checking.
Lex's email.
I think it was email.
I think it was an email. I don't see it uploaded to the site.
Oh.
I'd like
But
to
Commissioners
respond to a couple of things.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I had a chance to.
Mr. Chalifo, if you just say your name for the record.
Yeah, this is James Dean. Tracy Chalifo is the licensed architect, landscape architect, and she's with us tonight. I have 2 points to make in reference to your last meeting. Commissioner Levin visited the property and he informed the commissioners that there was a tree stump remover piece of equipment on the property, suggesting that after specific direction, I was not to remove any of the stumps. There has never been a tree stump remover on the property in all the time that I've owned it, which is since September of 2020. There is a different piece of equipment that bears no resemblance to a stump remover, which is a sawmill, a portable sawmill, which leads me to the next point, and that it was suggested by Commissioner Levin that I was disingenuous in my report to the commission about my actions on the property. That in response to that, just a little bit of narrative, so you might know me somewhat, and then have some information to draw your own conclusions. After living in Greenwich for 40 years on a 5-acre lot with a pond and a brook and through it, I had no issues with the town, with the wetlands of any sort in 40 years, and was in fact aware of wetlands. In June of 2020, my wife died after 3 years of fighting cancer. Contrary to advice from friends, they said don't do anything for a year. I sold the house quickly. Found this 1,200 square foot house on Adams Lane and on 1.7 acres and purchased it. It was in great disrepair. The former owner, William Kent, is in that today, but lived there for a good number of years, and it went to great disrepair. To the point that from the back acre of property, you could not see the back of it. You couldn't see through the property. It was just overgrown with wild vegetation, trees, etc. While I was selling my house and moving to a temporary quarters, a company who's going to remodel the house for me, they hired a tree company and went in to clear out some of the property. And in fact, they basically clear cut. And I showed up 3 days after the work had been begun, and it was virtually completed. They had taken down much more than I wanted. I actually didn't know what I wanted, but I left that to the construction manager. You know, it was a small project for him, but he couldn't explain why it went bad. And there's no denying that it went bad. It was not what I wanted. While there were no trees cut down directly in the wetlands, there were certainly trees cut down in the which I hired a soil scientist to do as you requested. I hired the landscape architect to do a comprehensive plan, which has been submitted to you, revised again, and I'm willing to move forward and clean that up. So I would tell you, I am not disingenuous. I plan to live there with my dog and have a garden, and the wood machine. We've cut planks of some of the trees that were cut down, and I'm going to build a fence across the front of the property. I was going to put a rock wall to match my neighbors across the street, but we're going to repurpose the wood and build a wood 3-stringer fence across the property, and which spans about 150 feet, and hopefully a small deck on one side of the.
Could I just go ahead and make a motion? Is anybody against that?
You're
Okay.
free to make a motion at any time.
I
That
move
is true.
to approve the memo dated February 22nd, 2021 for S19-560, 15 Adams Lane, as written, including the bond as written. I'm not comfortable waiving that. So that's my motion.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Is there
Who's that?
discussion?
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Uh,
Okay.
Cheryl seconded it.
And just to clarify, Maren and Jen, Valiant, sorry, are not voting on this item.
Right.
Keep going. Thank you.
If no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Could I maybe do a roll call vote?
That'd be better.
Okay, Ed Halowinko,
Aye.
John Mailing,
Abstain.
Steve Clocky,
Aye.
Matt Pence.
Dane.
Okay, John Levin,
No.
and Cheryl Brown.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Sorry.
Okay, so the motion passes with 3 yeses, 1 noes,
And 2
And three,
abstentions.
and 3 abstentions.
2 abstentions. And
The
then,
newbies
2
abstain whether they want to or not. So the 2 new members abstain, and I abstained because I had not read the memo.
Right, they're technically disqualified, and then you and
Myself.
And Matt.
Commissioner Pence abstained.
Right.
So the motion passes 3 in favor, 1 opposed, 2 in abstention.
Right.
Okay, so Mr. Dean, I will be sending you some additional information in the next coming days regarding your approved corrective action permit. And we can go over all the details.
Thank you very much. And each and every one of you are welcome to the property anytime you'd like.
Enjoy it, Mr. Dean.
I
And
will.
thank you for your patience.
You bet. Bye-bye now.
Okay, item B, under discussion and decision is 761 Main Avenue, construction new multifamily residence, associated on-site septic system, stormwater management, and landscaping adjacent to a wetland and water course. Alexis.
Okay, so this is, this application is continued. I think I had mentioned at the last meeting that just prior to the last meeting, I had a meeting with the engineers at Public Works, along with the applicant, to talk more about the stormwater plan. I think that Public Works is probably still reviewing the application. I haven't heard from them since. Should have asked them. They were here earlier. I should have asked them to stay. But let's see. On the website, I have uploaded some of the revised plans. There's a lot of information on the plan, so I don't know if the applicant would like to go through them. I think that some of the things that we had talked about at the receipt was kind of making it more clear the extent of the proposed building and its location within the parking lot. The proposed stormwater treatment, which it's my understanding that we're still working on sorting out whether there can be catch basins connected to the stormwater system that originate under the proposed structure. So that I would say is still in flux. And then new, since the last time the applicant was here and there was any discussion, includes a landscaping plan, a revised drainage manual, a explanation regarding the cut and fill within the flood zone area. And if you recall, there's kind of a flood compensation basin at the southernmost end of the property, which happens to be within the upland review area of the Norwalk River. I think those were the kind of the main issues. I do encourage you to go out and look at the site. And actually do have some questions. I was out there earlier this morning and had some questions for the applicant. Maybe after you do a presentation, just have more of a discussion regarding snow management at the site.
Okay.
And
so is the applicant going to present to us tonight, or are we?
Yes, I'm here. Yes,
I believe so. And then just real quickly, Michelle, if you could promote, there's someone in the attendees. Oh no, where'd you go?
It's already here.
Oh, there he is. Sorry, just saw that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alexa. Lynn, would you like to open or?
No, I think everybody understands that this is iPark Norwalk. This is an application for UNO, which is a multifamily building. This is a mixed-use development with recreation, office, and residential.
Excuse me, Lynn, could you identify yourself, please?
I'm sorry, my name is Lynn Ward. I'm from iPark Norwalk.
Thank you.
Should I continue?
Yes.
I'm sorry. The only other thing I would like to say is there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect, because in a letter on February the 12th, we did respond to all of the DPW's questions. And so I think maybe we're all sort of one step disconnected, but I would leave that over to Alexis, because I believe she understands precisely where we are. And then what I think I should do at this stage is not describe the project further because it's late at night. You're all familiar with it, and I'm sure everybody is tired. We think it's a very exciting development, and we hope we're earlier on an agenda sometime so that we can convey that while everybody's still fresh. I'm going to hand it over to Steve Pistola to try to put us immediately into business here. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Steve Pistola, professional engineer. I'm here with Rick Holland, our chief designer. We also have with us Dave Hughes, civil and licensed land surveyor as well. And John Mbimbo is here, I believe, there he is, doing the landscape architecture, along with Lauren, who is Lynn's most competent assistant. Anyway, okay, so if you don't mind, if you can share, are we shared? Are we shared? Okay. So this is the overview of the property. We're going to point to the LA Fitness there. That's sort of what you see as you drive past here on 761 Main Avenue. And to the south is the proposed building location. So what we'll do is we'll switch to the next drawing. And maybe a little closer. So the hatched area, horizontal hatched area, is the outline of the footprint of the building. The building is an elevated structure on columns, and parking is underneath, which is what you're seeing right here. You're seeing like through the building down into the parking on the ground, which is accessed right at grade. Important feature here is that we try to keep the grading of the existing parking lot as close to where it is as possible. So the footprint itself is a 50,000 square foot footprint, but the actual pieces of the building that are touching the ground are those darker hatched areas. And they are about 7,500 square feet. This building is proposed within the floodplain. It's an AE zone. You're not doing any grading in the floodway. We've stayed completely out of the floodway, and we're just in the floodplain area. So part of you can switch to the next one. Part of building in a floodplain zone is following the FEMA's best management practices, and some of the things that we've included here are protecting the floodway, so we don't have any grading any changes in grade in the floodway. We've elevated the structure on piers, as I mentioned. We are also maintaining as much of the existing parking lot grading as possible. And we're providing compensation for those areas that we are filling, the darker areas there, to the south, right in there. So we have about a 1.8 to 1 ratio. So we're filling, we're overcompensating by almost a 2 to 1 ratio. Additionally, for stormwater management, we're improving the water quality of the storm water by adding biofiltration trenches. Now, we kind of originally spoke about this as being just sort of limited to under the building, but as we further looked into this, we are expanding those biofiltration trenches along the entrance islands that are currently existing along the property here. And in addition to doing that, we're also enhancing the buffer zone between the river and the site on the bank of the river. So what I'd like to do is I can flip now to John Indiano there to show you the planting schemes within the biofiltration trenches and another.
Excuse the interruption, but did I hear you say you were going to enhance the buffer zone?
Yes, sir. I was going to flip it over to John Indiano there, our landscape architect, to show you what he has in terms of plantings.
Thank you.
You're welcome. He's muted. John, you're muted.
Yeah, I think so.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
Thank you, sorry. I'm John Imbiano, a principal with IQ Landscape Architects in White Plains, New York. We've been working with National Resources on this property for many years now, and have been before your commission a while ago, but we have been before you. Next to me is Vanessa Ayala from my office, assisting me with the presentation here. So as Steve mentioned, there's a couple areas I would like to focus on. One of them is the biofilters, which are the strips that the engineers have come up with to treat the water. And what we're able to do is implement in 95% of the cases, or the islands that are exposed to the exterior, the outdoors, is integrate a planting strip of native, generally herbaceous material, but we've also incorporated some native shrubs, be it clethra or winterberry in those islands. The species is recommended by the one of the proprietary components of the biofilter system, and also from our knowledge of doing a considerable amount of bioretention basins and rain gardens throughout our career here. So the biofilters are in the generally running east-west. At the ends, as Steve mentioned, where there's islands and we have a wider area, we're incorporated rain gardens there where the stormwater is allowed to run into those areas. If there are trees that we could keep there, they are sustainable with that kind of environment. They're either pin oaks or there's red maples. So we'd like to incorporate those where possible. There's a large area to the southwest corner there, and correct me, Steve, if I'm using the correct term, whether it's a flood mitigation area.
Yeah, it's for volumetric displacement. So whatever was filled, being proposed to fill within those smaller areas that are touching the ground.
Okay.
That gets compensated by excavating out that area.
So you can see that's a considerable amount of area there in terms of all the other landscape areas are more strips or the planted islands. This is good size. And we want to take an opportunity to also make that first of all, a landscape feature, contribute to a pollinator, pathway along the Norwalk River, come to a very biodiverse area where it's a mixture of native shrubs, integrating native tree species, smaller trees, and also a native wet tolerant seed mix in that area, which we've specified on our one of our sheets.
Can you estimate the square footage of that area?
I can't give it to you tonight, but be happy to do that. Steve, I don't know if you have that answer. Or Dave,
I think David may have a better
based
answer.
on volume that you need for flood.
Yeah, Dave, do you have an idea? David, you're muted now. Still muted, Dave. David, you need to unmute yourself. At least we had a half a chance of seeing what you were saying because you didn't have the mask on, like John. But
is this better?
That is much better. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, David Hughes, professional engineer, registered land surveyor. That area is about a tenth of an acre, about 4,300 square feet for the floodplain compensation.
Thank you.
And the last zone or area that we're dealing with in terms of restoration work is, to answer the gentleman's question, is the buffer area between the river and the parking lot. There is an embankment. We don't want to touch that. There's some vegetation on some slopes there. But from the top of the ridge or the embankment to the edge of the parking lot, we would like to remove all the invasives that are growing there. Restore that area with a riparian buffer seed mix, and also integrate close to a dozen or more smaller flowering native trees along there. We have a comprehensive plant list. We're replanting over 60 native trees. You can see the list up there if you'd like to go through them in detail. Over 500 native shrubs, be it winterberry, clethra, red twig dogwood, and fragrant sumac, and some of the viburnums that would do well. In that flood mitigation area, the shrubs, the trees would take some inundation, as could be expected there too. So we think the palette here is pretty well time tested, and with my experience doing by our retention areas. They're going to take drought tolerance when there is no storm event, and they will also take the inundation and treat the stormwater in those biofilter strips. So thank you. I don't know if hand it back to Steve or
I think that's basically a quick presentation for you to get a flavor of what we've been working with the DPW on and and
Commissioners, you're on.
I have a question. Is there planting going on the west side of the property?
There is, between the building and the rail.
Yes.
Yes, that area would be restored with more or less drought tolerant material there, considering the slope there, and that it is very much an upland area there with some bicolor oaks and some viburnums, some fragrant sumac. You can see the RA there, 200, and also an upland seed mix. And I do want to add, while we're talking about riparian edges and rain garden mixes and wet tolerant mixes, we also have an upland mix, because right now we don't have a blade of grass on the whole property, which I think is a good thing in terms of enhancing the pollinator aspects of it and the sustainable and the drought tolerance. But if we go back to the plan, Vanessa, if you go to the east side of the building, and we'll go back to that other wide open area, is we're introducing an upland meadow. So there really is no lawn in the whole project area. And as you go to the south, even though we don't need a biofilter strip there necessarily, we're integrating upland species of perennials to kind of integrate the whole landscape restoration project aspects of the project.
Okay, can I review again, Alexis, you're still waiting for information from the city as regards the stormwater management? Is that correct?
You're muted, Alexis.
That one was for you, Alexis. Did you get that?
Yep.
No.
I'm muting. Yep. So I'm looking at a February 16th email from the from Wilbur, the permit engineer, regarding his indication that the city does not allow for runoff collected from a parking facility with covered parking to be discharged to the stormwater drainage system.
Mr. Chairman, I can respond to that.
Okay.
From that email, I actually had a phone conversation with Wilbur regarding the regulation and where I could find the regulation to review it. And also have a discussion with him regarding the sanitary sewer elevation on this site, and that we couldn't discharge our stormwater collection system to the sanitary system because it's much lower in elevation. So Wilbur suggested that we write a letter stating that fact on top of the two primary stormwater treatment systems that we have implemented in this design, the biofiltration trenches and the rain gardens. And the secondary, which would be the what do they call it? Well, hydrodynamic separator that we've included as a secondary treatment for stormwater runoff. And then we could ask for a waiver for that. From what I understand, this regulation is regulated by the DPW and it's part of the city ordinance. However, I could not find it. So I called Wilbur yesterday and I called him today and he has not gotten back to me. So I am waiting patiently to write that letter.
Okay, thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
So if you don't mind me asking, so you're expecting all of the stormwater from the parking area to infiltrate into the biofilters and that triangle shaped space at the south end of the site?
Yes, the biofiltration trenches are a proprietary material. They're called the Focal Point from ACF Environmental. And they only need 174 square feet to treat an acre's worth of stormwater runoff on impervious. So
And
we've
how
sized.
does it treat the water?
It's a media system, different media, and it's a proprietary media. The medium on top is topsoil, peat moss. There's a detail on one of the detail sheets that shows what the cross section is. At the bottom is a pipe with holes in it, and once the stormwater flows through the medium or the trench, it then has a chance to be recharge the groundwater before it can go into the pipe and head out the collection system.
And the collection system is what?
Well, there's a series of pipes in the trenches. There's catch basins, and then there are pipes going to the hydraulic separator and then tying back in to the existing 36-inch culvert that's on the site.
Okay, so it's just sort of, it's not infiltrating any water really. It's just sort of slowing it down maybe and filtering it before it gets discharged into this storm sewer that has been addressing the surface water before this point.
That's correct. That's medium that's shown, that's approximately 27 inches, which is shown as mulch, high performance media, bridging stone and separation layer with the nonwoven filter fabric, treats the storm water for 80% removal of suspended solids and pollutants.
And that meets deep requirements?
Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir.
Okay. And then that slice of the south end of the site, so is that just a square foot trade-off because you're in some, the flood area, or is water being directed to that area for infiltration?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Can you repeat?
The grassy pollinator heaven down there, the south corner of the site, the triangular landscaped area, that serves what active purpose as far as water is concerned?
As far as water, you mean storm water or flood water?
Any water, all the above.
Okay. So, Steve, can you flip to, I think it's SP5 for a second? So you'll see there's a hatch pattern that runs on the west side of the building and inside of the retaining wall, and then on the south side, that's the area where we're doing some excavation, and that's for our FEMA floodplain compensation. Now on the south end, we are planting it, and John has showed you the plantings, and that will too also filter the stormwater runoff from that last bit of parking there.
The last bit, like the last row, or like, is there a square, is there a calculation? I'm sorry?
Yes, the last row.
Okay,
correct.
So, okay. So so what is basically downhill, what basically isn't gonna get into your first bio strip to the north?
Correct. That's
so
correct.
basically it's the aisle and then it's 2 rows of parking. So like 60
Yep.
feet or so, 50, 60 feet of pavement, that all pitches toward that planted area to the south.
Planted area, correct.
Okay, and that's designed, calculated to take care of all that water on that surface, the hard surface, onto the soft surface, and then it infiltrates there.
Correct.
And that's based on like what % rainfall event?
They're based on small rainstorms and the first inch of rainfall.
First inch of rainfall. Okay,
Water quality volume.
got it. Okay, sorry,
Basically the water quality volume. That's okay, I'm sorry. It's the water quality volume.
Okay.
Alexis is correct.
Okay.
And the concern that I have is I want to make sure that the collection under the building is allowed under the city's MS4 permit. The MS4 permit being a state permit that the city, as the maintainer of a stormwater system, has to meet certain criteria and adopt certain best management practices for stormwater discharges across the city. And so Public Works is working on figuring out what those catch basins are that are underneath the building, since they are no longer exposed to natural precipitation. So when you have a surface that's not washed during stormwater events, it is different than having a parking lot. And I'm not saying that the existing parking lot is any stormwater treasure by any means. This is the land of opportunity here.
I was about to.
Thank you.
So I do understand that. But on the other hand, you are proposing a significant new building, and we want to make sure that the stormwater, that we're not, first of all, that you're doing it the right way, and that the improvements are applicable for the areas where they're being proposed. So. And then I would like to have just a discussion regarding snow management. I know that I think IQ had done a restoration plan for that southern end in 2018 when there was some activity, I think, related to management of snow and runoff coming from the pipe under the railroad that you're now going to be solving. But I would love to not have to revisit that. And so currently along the banks, so this is looking uphill, the Norwalk River on the right and the parking lot on the left, and snow getting plowed onto the banks. And then likewise, this is approximately the area where the flood compensation basin will be in the planted area. Again, the Norwalk River is just over the bank. So I would just encourage you, especially looking at the site plan with, you do have that nice kind of that final southern strip of perennials, and then it drops into the basin. And my concern is that will make for a really convenient place to put a bunch of snow. And the issue with snow is that, in the winter, even with the rain gardens and the bioretention and all the systems in place, when you have snow deposited on the riverbanks or, on top of the wetland area, there is no real opportunity for renovation. So it comes with all the detritus and the sand and whatever else gets scraped up. So that would be my
thank you
request, is to come up with a snow plan, kind of a final plan.
Alexis, before you turn off these pictures, the one in the top center shows, yeah, you don't, I mean, it shows there on the left, a yellow line, which presumably is close to the edge of the existing parking lot. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do I recall that the existing parking lot was going to be taken up and a new one put down?
Yes, that they are proposing to strip and slightly regrade, well, minimally regrade and then
Okay.
repave the entire parking lot, but
Okay,
replace it in the exact same location.
It will be replaced in exactly the location it is now?
That is my understanding. That's what the plans show.
Is that
correct, Mr. Chairman?
It's not going to move to the right a little bit and get closer to the water. It's not going to do that.
No.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't
Thank
think
you
they have
very
that
much.
much room to do
Well,
that.
There's no room to do that.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You guys are not
You're welcome.
expanding, you're not expanding the footprint of the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's correct. Actually, we are taking some bituminous away. At the end of the day, we're taking probably just a little less than that 4,300 square feet on the south end. Probably half of that is going to be removed. So we're actually making it greener. We have less post-development flows than we do pre-development flows right now.
Right, because that's approximately where these two tree islands, I think, are being removed. But it's this area here, approximately, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
They're being removed, these pin oaks that are here?
All the existing
Now, the
tree
area-
islands, yeah.
Yeah.
Too bad. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, commissioners?
Well, I have to apologize. I've been quiet every time we've talked about this project up until now because I assumed that we weren't really going to have anything more analytical and restrictive than, let's say, deeper DPW would come up with. But I guess I see similar projects of this size that I work on, and I see giant retention ponds, and there's lots of space given to infiltrating surface water, and that includes water off the building as well. And so I guess to expect tiny little strips of whatever, proprietary technology it is to address such a vast area still confounds me a little bit. But again, I'm not an engineer. I guess I just figured that, and it's an existing parking lot, like, everybody's aware of. And so, we can't expect you to, make something magical happen. But I just wanted to get some context to why I was asking those specific questions early on. It's because I kind of feel under-equipped to comment intelligently on, those issues. And so I'm kind of hoping that it comes down to more than just a letter or somebody saying, oh, don't worry about it because we couldn't find that statute. I'm kind of hoping that's not what we're going to land on.
Well, we'll find out.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to
No,
say,
no, I
in the
just was-
stormwater, in the stormwater management report, I made copies of the proprietary material that we are going to use. They sent me a couple of pamphlets. We've used this on one other site. And I think you could look at the report and see, at least read their pamphlet. There should be a website if you want to take a look at that. The two challenges that we have for this project, the design-wise, are, maximizing the FEMA best management practices for our building. And I think we've done that by elevating the second, third, and fourth floors with piers, and providing a almost 2-to-1 compensation for the fill by excavation, and then stormwater runoff. And honestly, when you look at how much pavement's on the site, it's all pavement or all impervious. Everything that's being proposed is really the same. The only difference is we're adding a little bit more green space with our filtration trench areas, our rain gardens, And by removing, 2,200 or 2,300 square feet of pavement at the end on the south end is all what helps us with our flows. So we meet the characteristic for reducing post-development flows to pre-development levels. So that was the easy part, but treating the stormwater runoff of the parking lot was more of a challenge, and I think this is the best system.
What kind of maintenance do those strips require? Like, for a while there, 10 years ago, people were really excited about permeable pavement until they realized that you've got to vacuum it out every year so that it keeps letting water percolate down through it. I mean, so
Right.
I guess, I don't know. I'll shut up. I'm still
okay.
a little confused about like.
It's really, I don't know what all the filtering media is made of, but I do know that we would have to remove peat moss every few years, take the peat moss out and replace the peat moss. But that's pretty much the same as, refurbishing your mulch or your wood chips if you're doing landscaping every spring or every fall. So it's basically the same thing.
But wait, there's plants in there though, right?
Right.
Yeah, there'll be plants. I don't think it's going to be a big deal replacing what you can for the peat moss.
Yes,
Anything else, fellow commissioners?
Just following up on the notice of the application to the town of Wilton to the Inland Wetland Agency, was that ever done? I never received a notice.
Yes, it was, Alexis. I will get that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Anything further? Thank you all. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Have a good
Chairman.
night.
Thank you.
Good luck
Yep,
getting your
you
letter
too.
from DPW.
Thank you. Good
All
night.
right. Have a good night.
Okay. We're on to Roman numeral 5, approval of minutes. I'm sure everyone's read them. Does anyone have any comments or changes or additions? None? Then I move we accept the minutes of February 9th.
I second that.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Brown seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. We
Sounds
have
good.
an opportunity for public comments. If there is anyone here from the public who cares to comment.
No, they didn't last.
If they did, if there were, they left. Okay. My mental countdown is complete as far as waiting for somebody to step up. So we'll move on to comments of staff.
No, I'm good.
She's good. Then to comments of commissioners, which I'll lead off and formally welcome our extremely patient new commissioners. It doesn't always go till 8:30. I'll tell you, there've been times we've gotten out by half after. So just trust, as John Dryden said, trust on and think tomorrow will repay. Okay.
Hey, can I ask a question? I was reading something in the regulations about at least one of us has to have taken the Inland Wetland Comprehensive Training Program.
Yes.
And I'm sure, like, Ed and John, you probably have, I'm assuming, or who has, I guess, is I'm wondering. And
right
to that, I would like to take a course myself because I'm feeling a little inept lately with some of these issues.
Absolutely. Strongly recommend. Well, kind of strongly recommend.
Strongly recommend feeling inept? No.
So, no, you're doing great. So the wording in the regulations is agency or duly appointed agent. And so your duly appointed agent has taken this classes, and I've got, all these nice little certificates from when they used to do them live. Currently the municipal training program is paused because they are changing platforms. I checked last week, they're paused. I'll check again this week. They do have I can send you information. So I had actually sent out some links a while ago, but I'll resend them because I wanted to send them to our two newest members. The DEP has, I'll send you a link to their landing web page where it says, we're not doing training right now. And then, so traditionally the training had 3 sessions, and the first one was like introduction to the law, or kind of general introduction and kind of what wetlands are. The second one was case law and kind of understanding the nitty gritty kind of what can I require as a condition? What's illegal for me to do? What can I legally do? And then the third was kind of more of a technical thing, like what are disturbed soils? Really fun stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so on the webpage are the materials from some of those that you can look through. And then at the bottom are these, they're YouTubes, basically, these videos that they made. They are a little bit painful to watch because they like try to be really
They're sophomoric.
entertaining, but it's like cringy, cringy bad. But if you can get past the really irritating lead-in guy and this animated north arrow thing that they have, the information is actually really good. So I will resend links to all of that.
Generally speaking, for those who are new, the DEEP site has a huge number of different things, videos and articles and things like that you can read. John and I are going to sit through a day-long seminar for which they sent us the course documentation, which is 500 pages put together by the Connecticut. Yeah, look at that. See that? You want to talk about water management, you could stand on that in any flood and stay dry. But there are things in there that, for example, will say, and this is the sort of thing that Cheryl would get into, I think. If you have a large tree next to a water course, replacing it with smaller trees affects the amount of velocity of falling water that the large tree provides that the small tree does not. I mean, when water comes down hard, it washes away the banks of streams unless you have big trees that break down the force of the water. This is probably not reason to take your whole day off and go look at this stuff, but all I'm saying is that the harder you dig, the more interesting stuff comes up.
Well, I know I personally
and
suffer
John Levin
from.
will report back on the results of the entire thing when we finish up.
Do you suggest that we take this course in person or that we like hold off on taking the course?
I would, if you have the time and can, I would do the little videos. And I think I recommended to someone that you can do them at like twice the speed.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Highly recommend that. I mean, they sound really funny, but but you get through it faster.
The videos are worth it. They really are.
What's that?
The videos are worth it.
They are worth it.
It's a little bit like going back to film strips in school and all that, but still you get something out of it.
Right. And then as soon as DEP has the, especially kind of I think for probably all of you, except Ed, who's been here forever, the first session of what used to be the live training gives a really good kind of background of your just like how to do it, how to be a wetland commissioner, really. What are the questions that you should ask? What are the things that you look for? And they kind of start to go over how wetlands work, kind of like what John was talking about, things to think about as far as what are you actually protecting? Because at the end of the day, your job is to protect the wetlands and the water courses. And you're regulating the activities that potentially have impacts. You're not regulating the areas next to them. You're regulating impacts to wetlands and water courses. And so how do you assess those? And how do you figure out what's really impactful and what's not that impactful. And that can be hard to figure out sometimes. And I think the videos kind of help cut through some of that and make it a little bit more clear.
Steve, you had something you wanted to kick in?
No, I suffer from over information. And so like, if there's any way
You've come to the right place.
So like consolidating that 500 pages into like bullet points, you know, like even maybe like phrases that we could regurgitate to people to be like, hey, you know, here's what we're doing.
John and I will put together Wetlands for Dummies and hand it out to everybody, and then we'll be in great shape.
If you were up for that or something close, that would be super helpful.
Let me ask the two new people, what possessed you to strike for this commission? Have you had a lifelong urge to just immerse yourself, so to speak, in Wetlandsia? Anybody?
I'll go first. So so I've been in Norwalk, gosh, over 20 years now. I do a lot of volunteer work with Moms Demand Action, which is a gun violence prevention group. I do a lot of work with elections. I'm a core member of the Norwalk Women Who Vote, trying to get women in office. But really my passion is the environment. And I realized I don't have anything, you know, on my resume, or I'm not doing anything with that. So I kept my eye out for a commission that was around the environment. And when this spot came up, I kind of jumped at it. So I'm looking forward to learning from all of you, and just a few things that are super important to me are building up our Norwalk tree canopy. So if there's ever any opportunity for us to do anything with that, or maybe even on the side, and also solar, finding some incentive for residents to put solar panels on their roof. So
okay.
Well, I'll send you some information. The city is actually doing a big solar project, trying to get residences to sign up for solar. Brian Baker in the Planning and Zoning Office is working on that. So I will send you that info. And then the city is also looking at restarting having a tree summit, which we had a kind of a one with Wilton, often near Arbor Day, to kind of get more public interaction about tree canopy protection going. So
I was told.
Is that the thing up in the park up on the?
Yeah, it's not going to be in the park this year though, but there is talk of trying to get together some sort of tree summit.
Okay.
I was told that there will be a tree summit, and it's being organized by the Tree Advisory Committee, I believe. And that when I spoke to someone there, they said March next month.
Oh, okay.
Sarah, how about you? How did you
Last I
happen to
heard,
come
they
by
didn't have
us?
a date. So good.
Sarah, how did you happen to find us?
Hi, everyone. Sure. So like Jennifer, I have my hands in a bunch of different pots. I'm a lifelong Norwalk resident, mind you, not so long of a life. I am 27. I've been born and raised here in town. And normally I'm advocating for racial justice issues. I'm a member of the NAACP of Norwalk, and I work with Norwalk Mutual Aid and do a lot of grassroots activities. I am a social worker and a strategic planner, so I'm bringing the perspective of racial justice and social living spaces within the environment. I chose the Conservation Commission because I noticed there wasn't a person of color on board, and I wanted to.
Well, what about John's beard? That should count for something.
Well, maybe a little.
Doesn't count.
Yeah, so I wanted to have more representation, and noticed that this board primarily was, well, entirely white. So I wanted to have the diversity lens, and I care a lot about making like green space accessible to all folks.
Well, welcome aboard. Glad to have you both. Does anybody have anything else to contribute in terms of comments of commissioners? If not, may I hear a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Who wants to
I'll
be
second
first?
that.
Okay, and let's just assume it's approved and see you guys next time. Thank
Nice
you
meeting
all.
you all.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.